Hello and welcome back to another video here in the LEGO Room. What might be one of the final videos in the LEGO Room for 2024. There will still be a ton of videos coming out. We've of course started last week with the 12 days of backlog, and you'll be able to see on a daily basis the advent calendar as well, which I've just moved out of shot for the moment. For those that have been keeping up to date with that, do stay tuned. Make sure you're following and subscribe. Basically, we've got a ton of stuff coming over the next month and indeed in 2025. But 2024 was of course the 25th anniversary for LEGO Star Wars, and it was an interesting year to say the least, and there was a lot of good things in there as well. And first of all, I've got to start off by saying that the GWPs we got this year and the free gifts with purchase were two of the very best that I have seen in my time. I'm not counting the coins and all the extra little bits that went in there as well, but the droid carrier from May looked fantastic. Brilliant art design on the box and a fantastic set, and of course that Luke's lightsaber that came with the sail barge I thought was a really nice GWP. And of course the argument will be thrown in there every time there is a really good GWP of why isn't this a set that is available to buy. And it is a rock and a hard place, I get that, for LEGO, because you've got to make it such a good GWP that it is a desirable thing to attain. And of course the better the set is, the more desirable it is, and the more people outcry that this should be something that we can purchase. So in that sense, I think they did a fantastic job with the GWPs this year. Long may it continue, it has to be said. But what I would like to see, and I just thought about this before, is the Endurance came out at the very end of November, the ship, and that had a GWP with 2 minifigures and a build. Is it possible, LEGO, that we could see a build with 2 minifigures in the May 1st or May 4th promos in 2025? That would be really nice. That would be a fantastic thing, and that's just something I'm putting out there. Another thing that is quite divisive as well is BrickHeadz, and I thought this year we got 2 really fantastic BrickHeadz. Whether you're interested in BrickHeadz or not, we got a record-breaking 6-pack for LEGO Star Wars to commemorate 25 years of the Phantom Menace, and I thought that was a really nice set. That Queen Amidala figure is probably one of my favourite BrickHeadz, if not my favourite BrickHead that I have in my collection. I think it looks fantastic. Of course, looks like that Naboo Gungan sub Queen Amidala that we got 10 or so years ago. I think it's a fantastic figure. We of course got Cody as well, and I was hoping that Cody would have just a tiny microscopic Palpatine to go rather than the sort of translucent stud. But 2 really good BrickHeadz, so again they really did a fantastic job with those. And 2024 of course saw the return of Jedi Bob over 20 years after his first appearance in the gunship, and he didn't come in his own gunship like he maybe should have 5 or so years ago. He came in his own starfighter, that of course being from Rebuild the Galaxy. And for anyone who hasn't watched Rebuild the Galaxy, I would highly encourage it. In a time where Star Wars seems to be more divisive than ever online, this is a show that you just cannot find divisive. There's no law breaking. It is a what if kind of show. It's a lot of fun, and I have to commend the producers and the writers for their job that they did on it. You can tell they absolutely love Star Wars and they absolutely love LEGO Star Wars. A lot of little inside jokes in there, and I thought it was fantastically done. Long may they continue to make LEGO Star Wars projects for Disney+. And that kind of brings me round to the reason I'm doing this kind of video rather than a top 10 video like I did last year. And the reason for that is very simple. There was a beautiful set that was in Rebuild the Galaxy. The Dark Falcon looks fantastic. It is one of the best sets of the year, and I don't yet have it. I have made early inquiries with Santa Claus to make sure that it is under my tree on Christmas Day. So here's hoping that he gets that message, or indeed he is watching this video, because I am hoping that that is one of the few sets from 2024 that I am yet to get my hands on, and it is one that would quite obviously be in the higher end of a top 10 for LEGO Star Wars sets this year. Another reason potentially for not doing a top 10 is the fact that I would have the sail barge very high up on there, despite the fact that it isn't a perfect set by any stretch of the imagination. First of all, I got this set on day one and I'd been looking forward to it since we got the leaks about this time last year in December that this was going to be a set coming out on October the 3rd, and for me, it was something that I pre-decided that I was definitely going to grab before I'd even sort of seen what the price point was going to be. And there's certainly an argument out there if you're looking at the price per piece perspective, which I've covered in a couple of videos this year, which is the fact that price per piece is just going out of the window. And it's something I'll probably end up touching on at the very end of this as well. There's certainly videos that if you're passionate about the price of Lego and sort of its rise, certainly to go and have a look at after this video. But if you compare it, and it's very easy for me to do this because it is sat next to the Cantina on the shelves that are out of shot here. The Cantina, of course, £345 UK price, and it wasn't even that expensive when it first came out. It had a price rise, for those that can remember. It was closer to that £300 mark, and that was 2020, and then you've got the sail barge next to it, which was 430, only 11 figures, and one of them is Salacious Crumb, who is very, very small and no pupils as well, which is another negative of the set. And of course the Cantina has over 20. Piece-wise, they're both in the 3,000 pieces. I can sort of forgive where the pieces are in between that 3,500, 4,000 mark. But next to it and side by side, you can see over the course of 4 years that there has been significant reductions in terms of pieces and in terms of minifigures as well, but also in terms of a rise in inflation in price that probably goes above what would be a natural inflation over the course of the 25 years that we've seen for Lego Star Wars. With all that being said, in terms of the way it looks and how it makes me feel when I look at it, it is one of my favourite sets of the year. For that reason, it would have gone quite high, and that in itself would have probably been quite divisive. It is a fantastic looking set, it has to be said, and if we're going just on looks alone, it would be right up there at the very top. But I also caveat that with it was a very expensive set and one that I did have to think about as a purchase. One thing that Lego Star Wars did very, very well this year though, and it wasn't on the pricier side, was buildable droids, and you got a fantastic buildable R2-D2 back in March with that 25th anniversary Darth Malak figure, one of the better figures, and we'll get on to the anniversary figures in a little bit. But that R2-D2 for me surpasses the UCS R2-D2 in terms of price, in terms of the way it looks, and of course the fact you can scale it up correctly with that C-3PO that came out in August. And it's where that C-3PO lies, and indeed the buildable Droideka, where I was most impressed with Lego Star Wars. And for me, and if you've followed the channel for a little bit of time or know me personally, you'll know that I don't love Technic at all. I find it a little bit irritating, and I completely understand that it has to be part of building bigger sets and building ships for Lego Star Wars, but it's just not something I love. So when I saw for first the buildable Droideka, I thought this looks fantastic. Is it something I'm actually going to enjoy building? And I put off for a month or two getting it. I still got it in the summer, and I was blown away by just how enjoyable the process was of building it. And for me, that in itself has turned me around on the idea of a half Technic, half brick blend of sets that we could see for buildable droids moving forward. And I've done a video about buildable droids that I would like to see that would probably sort of encompass that Technic brick blend moving forward. Things that we've already seen in the early 2000s, like the C-3PO and the Droideka, and things like the Super Battle Droid as well, which I sort of made a plea for, because if they can do it with the Droideka, I think the Super Battle Droid could look absolutely fantastic. And for me, that set would be in a top 5 of sets for 2024, just because of how it made me feel and the fact that it could turn me around on something that I just don't love doing, like Technic. Now, I touched on the 25th anniversary figures. For me, these were pretty good. There was only maybe 1 or 2 slight misses with these 25th anniversary figures. And what I actually plan to do with mine, as I try to grab it whilst I'm on camera, is I said in a previous video I had a plan for this, and I still do, which is very much to divide it into 9 pieces, or a sort of almost like a noughts and crosses board. And I'll be putting these 7 minifigures in there, along with the 25th anniversary Darth Maul that came in the visual dictionary. He will be getting, I've ordered one of the plates for him to go on, so he'll be getting his own plate. He'll be essentially the 8th figure. So 8 into 9 doesn't go, and yes, you're quite right, and I'll be putting I've ordered also another brick that will go in the middle of it to commemorate the 25th anniversary. It's something that I've been working on, or planning to work on, with Mrs. Bricker. We're in the very preliminary moment of deciding what the background of this would look like, if indeed there was a background. But hopefully that is something you will see on the channel. And of course there is one major part of that as well, which is that I don't actually have one of the figures yet, which is the young anniversary Leia figure. I don't actually have that. I don't love that buildable droid set. It's not one that I'm planning to get. I would potentially get it as a parts pack were it to be cheap enough, and I'm certainly monitoring the price of that young Leia figure on the secondary market at the moment, but it is at such a high price that I just can't quite bring myself to do it yet. But it is something that you will see on the channel in the future. And with that said, it's quite easy for me. I think that there is a sort of bottom end of these figures, and for me that is QTKT would be near the bottom. I think it's a really nice figure in terms of it's a figure we would never see. I think the message and the story behind it for the young girl who suffered with cancer, I think that was a really nice touch, and something you maybe wouldn't see in any other kind of Lego format. You wouldn't see that necessarily in different IPs, but I thought it was a really nice touch. That being said, it's not one of the better figures in this set, but I can sort of appreciate just how much of a big deal it was for the family, and indeed for the wider community as well. 5s has to be near the bottom for me as well. There's just too many discrepancies with the way his armor looks. As somebody who really loves the Clone Wars, it just doesn't quite look right. And I like the fact that we've got a 5s. It could be improved. I'm not going to sort of have a wild, too harsh take on it. For me, you know, there's the helmet hole, there's the chest plate. I'm looking at it now just off camera, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's just not one of the best ones. It's magnified as well by the fact that you've got a couple of really nice figures next to it, because for me there is some top end figures in there. I'd probably put 9 Nub in the middle of that. It was a figure that we'd been after for a very long time. I couldn't quite believe that he hadn't been included in any sort of Millennium Falcon previously. Maybe he will be in the future. Surely we're on for a Return of the Jedi Millennium Falcon playscale set at some point in the future. And there's a very top end of this group as well, which is the Darth Malak figure. Looks fantastic. The Saw Gerrera looks fantastic. I really like that one. Really like the Saw character. And Cal Kestis, when would we have ever seen a Cal Kestis figure? And it looks fantastic. It's quite a basic figure in that sense, and I would have loved it if it had come with a BD1 as well. I've got the little BD from the Mandalorian set sort of sat next to him on the plate there as well. And yeah, I would have loved to have got a BD1, but I think those 3 were fantastic figures. They're generally all pretty good. 5s maybe letting the side down ever so slightly, and I can't really comment on the Leia figure because I'm yet to grab a hold of it, but obviously from images it looks fair. I do think the Lola figure, the Lola dish should be a stud and not a dish, because the dish is incredibly dish proportionate. It's very disproportionate how big that would be. It would be like the size of like well over my head, like this shape I'm making. It would just be far too big. So I do find that disproportionate, but the figure itself looks pretty good. It would be somewhere in the middle of the pack, but I really think that the Cal, the Saw, and that Darth Malak figure really are some of the best figures that we've seen. And yeah, really good figures. Long may it continue. I'm sure they will, of course, do this again in 5 years' time, as they did in 2019. Another thing that was done really well, in my opinion, this year was the mid-scale Starship collection. This was actually done so well, in my opinion, that I actually went back and got the Executor from 2023, a set that I had decided I was going to get rid of and not really commit to the idea of displaying Lego ships in that size collection. But after I'd got the 3 from March this year, I decided to go back and get that Executor because together they all look fantastic. And of course, we know in 2025 we're going to get a couple more of these mid-scale ships, which will be really exciting, and you will be able to see that on the channel throughout 2025. And whilst I am very positive about the fact that we've had a pretty good year, it's not going to go down as a stellar year for Lego Star Wars, but it is a pretty good year. I am also increasingly, as I've touched on in this video, focused on the idea of price per piece and where we're actually going with Lego, and particularly Lego Star Wars. It seems to be one of the worst offenders in terms of the IP, and Marvel is getting there as well. I recently did the Captain America new Lego video with the 220 piece set that is $55, which is just astronomical. I know, of course, it's sort of got that Red Hulk chaser in as well, but I just think we have gone so far past the point of this 10 cents, 10 pence per piece situation that I just think we're getting to a really interesting stage now where people are getting turned off by the price point. Some people are deciding to no longer buy release day Lego, and of course starting to move towards the sale market, and that's really prominent if you are on social media and you see people like myself who've just bought a ton of Lego over the Black Friday period, and indeed in the sales and the build up to Christmas. I think it's more prominent than ever that these sets do have a shelf life, and whilst we can rush to get sets that are retiring, it's also important to be aware that second party retailers have a shelf life that they have to adhere to get new stock onto shelves in time for their release date. And that does of course mean of places like Smith's Toy Store if you're here in the UK, or indeed in America in Target and Walmart, you will see that stock has to be sold, because you have to get the new stock on shelves. And I know I sound like I'm teaching you how to suck eggs here, but it's quite a simple formula. Sets will go on sale. Now, the issue that I have with this isn't necessarily for people like me, people with disposable income who have the ability to buy a number of shelves and a number of different things that they want and display them and how they want and bring them joy and pleasure. My issue, of course, with the price per piece problem is for the families that are maybe disadvantaged and don't have the ability to purchase these products at a sort of retail or even second hand price. My main concern is, however, for the children who, like myself as a child, had attention deficit issues, who are maybe now in the bracket of being neurodiverse in the 21st century, who would rely on products like this to help their cognitive development. I think these are the people that are potentially going to really suffer from the price hikes that we've seen over the last couple of years. And that is where, for me, I morally have a bit of a challenge with how I feel about the price per piece problem, because it doesn't necessarily affect me directly, but it may indeed affect families and indeed young children who need this kind of product in terms of their development. So that is where I stand on the price per piece problem, and you can go back over a couple of the thumbnails that I've shown in this video and I'll pop them on screen. If you've got any thoughts about the price per piece problem as well, do feel free to drop them in the comments section or indeed on those videos. As per usual, keep it kind, keep it respectful, but I would be fascinated to hear other people's takes on this particular sort of slow rising issue that we're sort of seeing across Lego, particularly since about 2020. So that is a year in the life of Lego Star Wars, as it were. And if you've watched until this point, thank you so much for watching not just this video, but any of the videos that I've done throughout 2024. And you can expect more of the same, not just in 2025, but in the build up to Christmas. We've still got a ton of stuff coming on the channel. And if you haven't gone and checked out that giveaway video, go and check it out, because there's only a couple of days left as this video goes live. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an awesome and a nerdy Christmas, and I will see you in the very next video. Bye.